thing. I like the pen.
Hello and welcome to Rams Talk Podcast. I'm sorry if you just heard Jamie talking then. I don't think he knew that I'd started the broadcast. Welcome back. We're doing a little bit of a transfer special today. We've each identified players from 4 different positions that we think Derby should sign. So we've looked at the squad. We've seen that fullbacks, centre-backs, wingers and strikers are what Derby need the most. If you disagree with that, let us know, but that's what we think. And we've each picked out 3 players from those positions. So one player is our prime first pick. So a player that's, at the top of their game or at their prime age, a realistic signing that they think we should sign, and then a young lad / gamble who I think it could make people laugh. So with me today to discuss all of these players and guys who've done a lot of research, so very grateful for that. First off, Chris Matthews Redwoods. How are you, Chris?
Hello, mate. I'm all good. Can I just say my deep research lasted 10 minutes because it was 10 minutes ago I was coming on. But yeah, I'm all prepped and ready.
Chris is a late substitution, so yeah, thank you for coming on, Chris. It's helped a lot. We've also got a very, very warm welcome to a guy who has just officially joined the podcast. He's been on before. You'll recognise him. Callum put a tweet out last week and everyone thought we were announcing a signing for Derby. Unfortunately not, but it's a great one for us. Adam Titley, how are you, mate?
I'm great, mate. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Hat Trick at Pride Park himself, Jamie Page. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm going to live off that for a few years. Don't know what that noise was there. But, yeah, no, very good and a very interesting concept, Jake. So thanks for using your brain on this one.
It's all right. It's all right. Right. So I've put myself first, as Chris, as he said, has only done about 10 minutes of research because he's a late sub. So I've gone for fullbacks. So I've picked 3 players that I think Derby should sign. Now, one of them has been linked with us before. One of them's played for us before. And one of them is a complete wild card that I've found by scouring the internet for players that might fit the bill. So my first one to pitch to all the listeners and all of you guys is Darnell Fisher. And now I mentioned this to Jamie earlier, and he wasn't a big fan of him being my prime pick, but he's 29 years old. He's played for Borough, he's played for Preston, he's played for Rotherham, and he's a right wing back. He had a major knee injury in summer 2021, and he hasn't really played in 2 years. He actually came back for the last game of the season for Borough. But he's on a free. He's got great quality in the Championship. He might have lost a yard of pace, but he's still quick. And the other player that I looked at was a guy called Sean Clare, who's also been linked, but I think he's a little bit too defensive for that role. Jamie, Darnell Fisher, I think he'd be a great signing for us. I think with a full pre-season, he's got a great time to come back into the team. He's fully healed now. He's ready for football. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so you told me your prime and your realistic, and I probably would have them the other way around. I think that was the only thing that I wanted to say in that regard. I'm not going to spoil who your realistic signing is, but yeah, I think he fits the category definitely of someone that we could sign. I suppose my only worry, and it's probably going to be a worry that we say for a lot of players that we mention over the course of this episode, but can he stay injury free? We need people that can stay injury free. It's not always something that you can rely on, but you do look at those previous injuries and say, well, out of potentially X, Y, and Z, this player's been out for 6 months. This player's been out for 3 months. So I think as long as he can stay injury free, like you say there, have a good pre-season behind him. He's in that age category that Warren said that he wants to kind of bring in. So yeah, potentially could be a good one. And I imagine there'll be a lot of clubs interested in. So I guess it's one of those that if we were going to go for a player like that, similar to, I suppose, how we would go to a lot of players that we mentioned, we are going to have to fend off Championship and League One clubs for their signatures.
We will. And it's important he is ex-Rotherham. And I think that's going to pop up quite a lot over the course of this episode. So my second player is Hayden Roberts. Who'd have thought? I put him down as the realistic one. He's been released by Brighton. He's available on a free. Paul Warne came out and said he really likes him. He's a big fan of him. Obviously, I don't need to explain too much because we've all seen him. But he's strong defensively. He can grow in that offensive sort of side of the pitch. I think over the course of the season, he started to grow in those positions. and he can play at centre back as well. And he's got experience playing internationally for England under 18s. He was solid at 21, so I can't see why he wouldn't be solid at 22. Chris, is Hayden Roberts a man you'd want to see back?
Yeah, definitely. I think he was probably our most successful loan last season. Well, say probably he was our most successful loan last season, wasn't he? And I think he knows the club now. I think he mentioned quite a few months ago that Derby felt like home. So it would be a very very good signing, and one that makes complete sense.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Yeah, and I think a lot of Derby fans would think the same thing. It'd be nice to have him back. And my final one is a player that I found while scouring the internet. I was just having a look around. I was looking at different leagues. I'd seen, if anyone saw the craziness in the Bundesliga 2 yesterday, where all the Hamburg fans invaded the pitch, and then Heidenheim scored 2 goals after 90 minutes. To send them to top of the league and knock Hamburg down to the playoffs. And I saw.
Can I just say, Jake, very, very quickly, please do not ask my opinion on this player. Adam, I feel really sorry for you, mate, with what's coming up.
So I saw that, and I saw a comment where someone had said the same thing happened in the 3 Liga, the 3rd division as well. So I was just having a little scout around in the 3 Liga, see what players are about. And I bumped into a player called Yannick Rochelt, right? And he played in the 3 Liga, so the 3rd division in Germany. They won the league. He played either at left wing back or at left wing. He's 24. He came through Bayern Munich's academy. He had a little stint in non-league with a team called Ulm, which I didn't even know was a word. He got 12 goals, 13 assists in the 3rd tier in Germany. Could use both feet. I had a quick look at his stats. He won 80% of his tackles as well. Watched a couple of clips because I'm really sad and have nothing else to do. And he seems like a hard worker. He's quite quick. Obviously, it's not a great division, but he's quick, and he's a bit of a wild card. And I think I'd love it, Adam, when we sign wild cards, players out the blue, players you've never heard of. You bring some random one in. You know, for every Kamil Jóźwiak, there's a Grzegorz Raziak, as the saying goes. So yeah, I mean, would you want Derby to bring in players that are not necessarily well known?
No, to be honest. I think we're in a position now where, to be frank, where obviously we've seen the playoff final today, Derby have to be going for automatics next season. If we're signing players are unknown, there's a big risk there that if they don't come off, we then have to then go and re-sign more players in January that are proven. So I think that would be my worry. I want to sign proven players that can perform in this division and in the championship as well, because that's what we've got to be aiming for. So to be frank, it'd be a big risk in the position we're in. If we were sat mid-table in the championship, then yeah, go for it. These players might come off and might have a return value or might push us up in the division. But now we're in a position where we've got to go further. So signing unknown players, big gamble, could come off brilliantly, but a big gamble in the position we're in.
To play devil's advocate, so there's a player that came to mind straight away. Is Mads Juel Andersen at Barnsley.
He was in ABBA, wasn't
he? Yeah, Mads Juel Andersen at Barnsley, and he was unbelievable in the playoff final. I know they lost, but he was phenomenal for the whole game. And they signed him from a team called Horsens in Denmark. I don't know how much they signed him for because it doesn't say here. But again, he's a random signing. I mean, I know what you mean. I know where you're coming from, but I don't know, Jamie. I know you're a man who likes risks, right? Do you think that Derby need to take a couple of calculated risks?
Look, I'm all up for go. Look, the last bald Derby County manager, I think, well, mainly bald, Jim Smith. He went on a trip to Costa Rica, didn't he, and brought back Paulo Wanchop and Solis, and also brought in Poom, and these players came in and they changed the fortune of our club. Now, I wouldn't want him to go out, the recruitment team to go out and put all of the eggs in that basket. But we do love an overseas player coming in and finding their feet. Abdul Kamara springs to mind, and that song at QPR away where he scored that goal. But yeah, I think to kind of echo your point there, for every Jóźwiak there is a Raziak. But of recent years, I just think of Jóźwiak, Mike Taveric, Albentosa as well, all players that came and just couldn't settle in. So I think I'd have one or two, but I wouldn't be going all out. I think there's definitely enough playing in this pyramid and at this level that we can kind of rely on.
Let's hope so, mate. Let's hope so. And yeah, I'd be surprised if Mark Thomas was taking flights to Germany to watch non-league football. But yeah, well, I don't even think it's non-league actually. But anyway, Chris, right, we're on to you now. We're going from fullbacks to centre-backs. I know I picked 2 left-backs and a right-back because it was quite hard. Nice and easy. Centre-half, who are your choices?
So can I just confirm we're going for prime, realistic, and then young and up and coming?
Yes.
Right. So prime, Wes Harding, I think fairly obvious choice. He's at Rotherham. Warren obviously knows him. Versatile on the right hand side, so he can play at right centre back and right back. Definitely a Warren type of player, and I think he's probably if there were bets on Derby transfer, he's probably one of the favourites to join us. And yeah, he's just sort of player we need in my opinion. From what I've seen clips of him 10 minutes before I came on the pod. He's no nonsense, and he's the sort of player I think we need to get out of League One. He's not a ball playing centre half at all. He is a get your head on it, throw whatever you can to block the ball, and yeah, I think we are probably favourites to sign him, and he's what we need in it. So that's my prime one. I'll open it up to debate.
No, I think it's fair. Yeah, I think it's fair. You saw me about to speak. Yeah,
I did.
I think we're always going to come back to a Paul Warren type of player and that kind of Rotherham connection. And I think, yeah, you're exactly right there. Someone that he can rely on. Do we necessarily need ball playing centre backs at this level? Probably not. I think rule one is keep the ball out of the back of the net. So yeah, I think that's a good shout, Chris.
Thank you. Right then, so realistic, and I do think this one's realistic. I think we won't be the only club in for him. I think there'll probably be about 20, but he'd be a marquee signing. I think he'd be on a par with the Hourihane signing last summer. I know it's been mentioned a lot. Sonny Bradley at Luton. So I would say definitely past his prime, but can he do a job in League One? Absolutely. He'll probably do a good job in the Championship as well. But I think if we lost Cashin, it would sugar the pill a bit because he would come straight in, a natural Davis replacement, an experienced centre half, and potentially captain material as well. I think I'm not a big fan of players coming in straight away and taking the captain's armband. Obviously, Davis is gone now. And I think Max Bird would be a little bit put out if he didn't get the captain's armband and someone else came in on a free transfer and got it. But at this stage, I don't think we really care too much about players' feelings. It's about getting out of League One next season. So I think Sonny Bradley would be our marquee signing of the summer. So yeah, thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so I agree with you, Chris. I think we need a leader. I think we need a real leader. I know Davis was that player. Davis has gone now. And I think it was Chris Baird who came in and got made captain straight away. And
yes.
That went terribly wrong. But I can see this being different. I mean, I can't see young 22-year-old Max Bird kicking off because he hasn't been given the captaincy. I think he's done a good job as vice captain. I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed as vice captain. When a player like Sonny Bradley, who led, I think he led Luton up at the first time of asking when he signed. He led them up from League One to the Championship, and then, he's not played as much, but as club captain, they've now been promoted to the Premier League. So he's got to be doing something right. Everyone that's spoken about him says he's a great influence behind the scenes, and he's not a bad player as well. He's not as tall as I thought he was. He's actually the same height as me, which is quite concerning because I'm not massive. But when he plays, he's quite an imposing centre half, and he's not the best passer in the world. But do we need that? You know, that's not necessarily what we need. And if we keep Cash in, we've got him to play diagonals anyway. So yeah, that's a good choice, Chris.
And what I would say on that, on the previous two centre halves, can you imagine if we are playing four at the back with two centre halves, Wes Harding and Sonny Bradley? If we do lose Cash in, for me, that's stand out the best centre half combination in the league. So moving on to my potential young up and coming player. So this is very much reliant on if we can flex our muscles in the transfer window. He's a Peterborough lad. He's been just called up to the under-20s England World Cup squad. And I really liked him when I saw him. It's Ronnie Edwards at Peterborough. Now, there seems to be, I don't know what's going on at Peterborough, but Johnson Clark Harris was put on the transfer list. So I think they need some funds. And if we can flex our muscles a bit with a transfer embargo lifted, you know, with a cheeky 500k offer, get him to us. I don't know, but from what I've seen of him this season, he could be a star of the future. And even if we only have him for one season, if we get up with him and then he signs for a Premier League club, he's done his job for us, hasn't he? So I think Peterborough need funds. I think we could potentially splash the cash a bit with the right player. And at 20 years old, and then an under 20 England international, he's represented England from under 17s. Yeah, good player for us.
I think adding on to that, he's an experienced player as well. Played pretty much all season for Peterborough as well. Obviously, like you mentioned, the England call-ups. It'd be a big marquee signing, but if we manage to keep Cash in, like you said about Sonny Bradley and Wes Harding, what a partnership that would be at the back as well.
I'd also, on the up-and-coming player, like to just give a small mention to a player who I've really enjoyed watching this season. He's called Jake Rooney. I think he potentially could be very good for us next season, and it means we wouldn't have to spend money. But yeah, Ronnie Edwards for me would be a cracking signing, as Adam said, marquee signing. But I think personally, Warren's priority this summer. There are obviously other positions we need to fill, but centre back's huge. And if we can get 2 or 3 proper Paul Warren type centre halves, bearing in mind that we'll probably be playing 3-5-2 next season, then cash in with Harding or Bradley or Edwards. I think we can be very pleased with our transfer business if 2 of those come in.
Good stuff, Chris. Good stuff. Yeah, 3 solid players. I think that's what we need, isn't it? I know you spoke about Jake Rooney, but he's a good player, and he definitely will be a good player. But we need someone that's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit more experienced, especially if Erin Cash ends up staying, which I really hope he does. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
And I will put a caveat on that, Jake, with Jake Rooney. I mean, he's 5 stone wet through, isn't he? So let's be honest, we're going to need some bigger men than him. But if he gets on the weights in pre-season, you never know.
Yeah, if Jake really smashes the steroids in the gym for the next 2 months and comes out looking like the Undertaker or something, I think he'd be good. But yeah, he needs time. He's only young, isn't he? And I'm sure he'll get it. Right.
Can I just add a quick player to centre back? Because I want to talk about him just quickly. Obviously, being based in Cambridge United's my, I suppose, local club, so to speak.
Plus,
and they've just, I know, following the fame. But they've just released Lloyd Jones, who got he swept up at their Player of the Year kind of evening. And I spoke to my friend Joe, who's a good guy, Cambridge United fan, and he's kind of put back to me that he's a 6'3" centre half, big and strong, athletic, good in the air, very comfortable with the ball, always looks to get the ball and step out from the back. Best player by a country mile, and he wouldn't look out of place in any side in League One. So I think potentially there's going to be a host of teams that are going to be after him. He's young, he's got his career in front of him. So yeah, definitely one to look out for, Lloyd Jones, who's just been released by Cambridge United.
Why has he been released, Jamie? Just quickly, he's been so good.
Yeah, I say I say released. He's decided to move on. So I think they've had a number of players, including one I'm potentially going to touch on as well, who have decided to kind of move on and not been given a contract. Well, not signed a contract, I guess. So yeah, interesting one to look out for. See where he ends up.
Good stuff. Right, Adam, you may finally get your chance to talk about your 3 players. Are we done? Are we finished? No more centre backs. Okay, right, Adam, you're on winger duty, mate. Who have you got?
Right, for my wingers, for my prime first pick, I was stuck between 2 players, but one of them could probably go into the realistic pick. For my prime pick, love him or hate him, after the news came out this week, don't know how reliable it is, £50,000 release clause, experienced championship player, Tom Ince. We've had him before. I'd bring him back again. I know, Chris. Don't put your head in your hands, but 9 goals, 4 assists this season is not a bad return for a winger who's at the back end of his career in the Championship. £50,000, I'd be up for putting the cash on him. No doubt there's going to be clubs in the Championship sniffing around him.
100%.
And if we could get him, then I think we've got a guaranteed player who's going to get us goals and assists.
I completely agree, Adam, and I'm going to put it to all of you. I think Tom Ince is one of our most underrated players of the last decade. He consistently hit double figures for us every single season, went for over £10 million, and so many fans. And I'm sure the supporters that still don't like him, but the people who sat around me were like, he's not smiling. Why doesn't he look happy? And that was the reason why they didn't like him, even though he'd score like 15 goals in a season. I'd love him. I'd love him, Adam. Honestly, I'd love to have him back. I don't know how well he'd suit Paul Warne's system of graft and run round, but he's got quality, hasn't he?
Absolutely. I know
Jamie, I've got a migraine coming on. Help.
I mean, it's I don't know. I'm one for. I love old players. Chris Martin, I've wanted him back since
Is it because you are
forever.
one?
But yeah, I am an old player. But yeah, for me, I think the horse is bolted with Ince. I don't think he's going to be the way forward. I'd much rather put our money on something that's going to give us longevity. But I can see what you're saying. I think the thing is that release clause, £50,000, it's not a lot of money. He's obviously got the connection there, but yeah, not for me, unfortunately, Adam. But it's a good shout.
No, that's fair enough. So for my realistic picks, get more people on side, I've gone for a bit of a rogue one maybe, but I thought, like Derby, I'm going to think we're going to be looking at the lower divisions, bring a player up. And it's a bit of a rogue pick, but I've got 2. I've got Ben Whitfield from Barrow, 27, at the end of his career, sort of. Not at the end, but he's getting to his prime. Quite small, but 5 goals, 12 assists this year. Bit of a stat merchant, I know I am. But at Barrow, 5 goals, 12 assists. Going to be a low price. For a player who's got that many goal involvements at a team who are about mid-lower table in League 2 is pretty high. I think surely a player could probably do a job. Definitely in a Paul Warne system where it's going to be hard graft. But I've also highlighted, who was maybe my prime first pick, was a lad who was on loan from Crystal Palace at Charlton this season. I'm probably going to butcher this pronunciation, but Jesur Rak-Saki. Have I pronounced that right?
I don't
know. What
know.
a baller this season for Charlton. Absolute massive player for Charlton. Probably their best player of the season so far. And I reckon he's probably got another League One or lower half championship loan spell on him. And he's got a really good return from the winger position.
Yeah, I've got him. I actually had him written down to mention. I think there's going to be a host of championship clubs that'll be sniffing around. And I think actually he could probably make that jump up. You just hope maybe the Crystal Palace connection with us selling Ebioe and Plange. I had to rack my brains there. Maybe that comes in handy. But yeah, definitely a player that we should be after if we can, if he is going out on loan again.
I'll jump in on that, Adam. Can I say brilliant research, crisp presentation. But you mentioned that you said the phrase 27 years old and almost at the end of his career. Jamie and I. Well, Jamie's 32 now. I'm 31. How dare you? Is all I can say. Brilliant analysis. I'm not gonna knock you for that. But yeah, how dare you?
I know. On the first one, but I'll go for my future player.
Sacked in the morning. Oh, sorry.
I'll go for my future young player. I struggled to find someone we could sign on a permanent, probably. That would not be snapped up by a club in a higher division, especially as a winger who's going to be getting goals and assists. I just thought their value would be too high. But in terms of getting a loan in, the most realistic one that I highlighted would probably be Amari Hutchinson on loan from Chelsea. Surely he's got to be calling for first team football now. There's been a decent bit of hype around him. Obviously, I'm not going to claim that I watch him week in, week out, but definitely a pacey, tricky winger, and another one that we could bring in. Hopefully, he would hit the ground running. But again, this season, players probably that haven't had first team experience before haven't exactly hit the ground running with us, and it's taken us a couple of games to get them going. But another one that I've highlighted, another former Derby player, Malcolm Eberway, not got as many goal and assist returns as we thought he probably would do on loan at Hull. So I think definitely a League One on loan could be on the cards for him. I've seen that we're linked, but once again, it's probably just the run of the mill rumours. But that's my two prospects to come on loan. Maybe he's a future star.
Definitely two good players there, mate. Definitely two good players. I think. How old's Ebiora now? Is he 19?
19, 20, yeah.
19. That
means past it.
Yeah, I was going to say 8 years from the end of his career, isn't it? So, yeah, it's a risk. But no, they're two good players. I think Amari Hutchinson, one of my best mates, is a Chelsea fan, and he raves about him all the time. So, yeah, I think he'd definitely be a good signing.
I would like to mention there's a few frees that I think would be an injustice not to mention. I know former Forest player, but currently just released from Boris Sami Amiobi. Always had a great game against Derby. I think definitely there might be another season in him if need be. I know. But the other ones I've got is I know he could play along the front three, but as a winger, Luka Zhao. I know it's probably not realistic because I think he's a decent enough Championship player, but he's on there. Jordan Graham from Birmingham, pretty underrated winger. And then Tom Rodgick from West Brom, who's not had the best of seasons for West Brom. What a player he was at Celtic.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? How long's your list? How many more players have you got?
Well, I got panicky that everybody would have like a really long list of players, so I backed it up. But now I feel bad if I don't mention the players I'd noted down.
I'm so surprised you didn't mention Mason Bennett, Adam.
Well, I've got Scott Malone written down there as well. No, I'm kidding. I know I've got Scott Malone.
No, really good list, mate.
Right.
Just a few.
Good stuff. Right, on to the final ones. Strikers. Jamie, who have you got?
So, I mean, it's definitely going to be the dream is going to be Didsey, isn't it? I think re-signing Didsey is going to be kind of key. So 22 goals in 39 appearances. He is the cheat code, creator, scorer, fantastic pro. You can really see the impact that he's had on the group among kind of the young players and probably some of the senior pros as well. So I think getting him signed on for another season, albeit there has been some speculation with him potentially going to Notts County that seems to have gathered a bit of pace over the course of the last week. I suppose my cons on Didsey is not necessarily a Paul Warne kind of player, but maybe we do need some luxury. Obviously, like I said, they're linked with Notts County. And I guess the injury worry, he's not getting any younger. He has had problems throughout his seasons with thigh issues, groin issues. So potentially, are you asking and expecting Didsey at his age to do a full season? I don't know. I guess, to put it to you, Jake, first, Didsey, important signing, do you think?
I know you only put it to me because I said earlier that I'll be honest, I love Dave McGoldrick. I think he has been incredible this season. I think my one worry is if we're pinning our hopes on a 36-year-old man to carry us up the league. I think he's got quality, and it's weird. And I know I've said this in earlier podcasts. I actually don't think he's great in front of goal, which is hilarious for a player that scored 23, 24 goals. But those chances, which regular strikers would usually take, he tends to miss, and then he bends one in from 30 yards. He's just one of those players, and I think he gets by just by the fact he's just a brilliant footballer. He's an incredible footballer, but as an out-and-out striker, I don't think he's our answer, and I think we'd probably struggle if he was our main option going into next season. Now, to have him as an option would be amazing. But I don't know whether I'd want him to be our number one for the whole season.
Yeah, and I guess that's the assurances that he'll want from Warne, because he can go and play for Notts County and start every week, I guess. So yeah, it's interesting to see what happens with that one. I'll move on now to my realistic. Now, I was quite torn between two names here. I think potentially had similar kind of seasons in League One. I think realistic is definitely the main word here, so please don't judge me. So the first name I'll say, but he's not my final answer, is Sam Smith, who's recently been released again by Cambridge United. Basically,
I'm sensing bias here, mate.
No bias. I'm just looking at the free agency market. But I sided with Alfie May from Cheltenham. So 29 years old, fits profile. He's been consistent over the last 2 seasons. We had Cheltenham fan and radio presenter on a preview show, and was kind of waxing lyrical about Alfie May. He knows the league. He won March 2023 Player of the Month. He also scored on a ridiculous goal from about 50 yards in that winning kind of run that led him there. He was signed for 5k as well, rumoured, so he's not going to break the bank. And I think if we're just looking to get out of this division, we need somebody that knows the division, that can score home and away. And he's one of those kind of crafty strikers that just seem to be, where they need to be. So, yeah, interesting to see where he ends up, because I think, again, he's been linked with a couple of other League One teams, including Charlton. So interesting to see where Alfie May ends up. Chris, Alfie May, is that someone that you'd like to see in a Derby shirt?
Yeah, I do want to ask you a question, because it's quite unclear at the moment. Do you live in Cambridge?
I might do. Yeah, I might do.
Because you've hidden it really, really well. But no, Alfie, yeah, to be honest, I'd take him. I think, I wanted to make a point about McGoldrick, and I thought you were spot on. He is a luxury player. He's like a lighter scout camp trip, isn't he? He's one of those that I can't see him coming off the bench next season and making a big impact. I can't see him being one of those super subs, but I can also see him getting a bit annoyed if he doesn't start every game. But on to Alfie May. Yeah, I think he would be a proper League One signing. Whether he would then stay with us into the Championship if we got up, I don't know. But I think our focus has to be in the striker department the next 12 months. Sorry about that.
We've had all sorts of noises through that. We had the motorbike driving past. I think that was Adam. We've had the Windows update. We're just waiting for a submission from Jake on that one. But yeah, no, I agree, and I think realistic is the key word we need to take there. And I think he'd be a great signing. And I fully expect that if he stays in League One next year, which probably will be the case, I expect him to post a similar kind of goal return. So that's an interesting one. I'll move now on to my one for the future. Again, I'm going to think loan in this regard, which is where Adam kind of went. I'd have loved to have said Carlos Borges at City, but I don't think that's going to be too possible. Absolutely teared us apart in the cup this year. I've actually gone for another Man City player, and I don't know if you guys are going to agree with what I'm about to say, but just hear me out. So I've gone for Liam Delap, who would be available on loan. He wasn't really rated at Stoke. Oh, Chris is left. I don't know if that's on purpose. He wasn't rated at Stoke. 3 in 22. He then moved to Preston. 1 in 14. Is he at that championship level? I don't know. He obviously came through the academy with us, so he knows the club. He's played in the Champions League. He's played in the Premier League for Man City. I mean, he scored that goal for Man City. I can't remember who was it against, but you looked at him and thought he was going to be the next kind of Foden and the breakout star from this kind of academy, I guess, at City. I just don't know what's next for him. He'll potentially end up in the Championship, but I'd love to have him. I'd love to have him. I don't know what you guys think. Is that have I gone from being really realistic to being really unrealistic? Adam, what do you think?
I don't think it's unrealistic, but I think it might just be. I just think it might be to do with his attitude, really. I mean, I heard things about when he was at City that he was knocking on the door a lot, maybe a bit too over-ambitious into where he should be starting. Obviously going on loan to Stoke, which seemed like probably the perfect move for him, really, at the time, but just didn't really hit form, and then hasn't really hit form at Preston either. And two decent enough clubs where you could score a few goals, you could probably become the talisman at the front. But I could see him making a loan move to a top-end League One club like us, but I'm just not so sure. I'm a bit worried about his attitude. That's the only thing that I'd be worried about if he came to us. But I don't think it's too over-ambitious, but I just think probably the wage he's on. And Carlos Borges, wasn't he signed for like 15 million?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I mean, you probably signed him on a permanent, probably, but I'm not too sure there. But
Embargo's gone, mate.
Yeah, no, he's gone now. Stop flexing the muscles.
Yeah, no, I'd love to have said Carlos Borges. It's interesting to see what happens with him next season. He's had a breakout season for their under 23s. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens with under 23s, under 21s. I forget what even academies are doing nowadays. But yeah, do you agree, Jake? Is that unrealistic? Well, I'm keen to get your opinion on that.
I think it is realistic, and again, as you've all said, he's a player he's struggled. He's struggled quite a lot, and he's struggled in the Championship. And you look at Stoke, you look at Preston. Neither of those teams score loads and loads of goals. And I think if he dropped to League One, he'd come to Derby. You know, we should really, and that this is without sounding, like we're bragging or being big-headed or anything like that. We should be towards the top of that league. And we should be beating teams most weeks. And if he was signing for a team that was winning games and should be winning games, he's got a real good chance of developing. Will he have the ability that the likes of McGoldrick have to sort of drag us through games? We don't know yet. But if City are willing to let him drop to League One, I think he'd be a good signing. And I'm sure they'd be able to afford his wages. I'm sure we'd be able to pay only a couple of pounds for him.
Well, they stole Scott Carson off of us, so yeah, that's the least they can do. They definitely owe us a favour. You walked out, Chris. Come on, tell me why you walked out. Is he not a Derby County player? Has he not got?
I don't want Liam Delap anywhere near our club for everything Adam said, and more. His attitude stinks. I've seen him quite a lot because I do like to follow the careers of Derby youth players, and I think to say he's above his station is an understatement. He's been bang average in the Championship this season. And some of the things he said, some of the things he's been quoted as said, I don't want him anywhere near Derby. So that's my honest opinion.
JV, sorry to jump in. Just want to mention, every player that Chris dislikes ends up going to hit 15 plus goals or assists later on. So Chris, keep hating him, and hopefully we'll sign him, and hopefully he'll.
I'll be prove wrong, but if we sign Tom Ince and Liam Delap this summer, yeah.
You'll be with Mendes Lang in the Bahamas.
Absolutely.
Right, cool. Right, if that's everything, I've been drafted up a quick team full of players that we've mentioned. So I've included some of our current players as well. So yeah, this is just rough. These are just the first ones that came to my head when I was thinking about the ones we mentioned. So we're playing a back five. So we've got Wildsmith in goal, 3 centre halves of Wes Harding, Sonny Bradley, and Aaron Cashin. Darnell Fisher at right wing back, Hayden Roberts at left wing back. A midfield 3 of Bird, Knight, and Hurahan. Tom Ince on the right, Nathaniel Mendes Lang on the left, and Alfie May leading the line. That team wins League One. Hands down, that team wins League One.
That smells like promotion.
Feel free to call us deluded. Actually, please do. If you disagree, if you have any contrasting ideas, please let us know. I'm sure we'll build more on this and we'll talk about players as we sign them. But yeah, any final thoughts, lads?
I think we're just missing one one free signing to go up top, boys. Really, Mason Bennett's on a free, boys. Why aren't we discussing that opportunity?
I think the main thing to add is no restrictions. We can finally operate as a proper club. We know now the teams that are in this division, as we've said in the group chat and as we've said on here, automatics has to be the aim. So the players that we get, that's got to be what's drummed into them. We've got to get out of this league next season. And if we can buy players that can make that transition from League One to the Championship, then perfect. But that shouldn't be the aim. The aim should be, let's get up and then we'll think about all that stuff later. So yeah, Alfie May to hit 20 goals next season for Derby County. You heard it here first.
I think
there's been absolutely no link of that, by the way. I'm not going to.
I think well, we need to see players that can start next season well. I think we can't afford to have too many players who will take a few weeks or months to bed in. We need to start next season like a train. And I think players that I think Alfie May is a great shout. I think we need to be in that position where we're starting game one completely different to the Oxford game at the start of last season, where we can go and get points on the board and be the ones to catch. So yeah, that's my opinion on what we need.
Good stuff. Any parting non-Mason Bennett related comments, Adam?
Just have to get the loan players right next season.
Yeah.
I'll leave everyone with that.
Yeah. Wow, what a somber way to end.
What a debut.
Right. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. It's been our first proper episode in a while. So yeah, I've enjoyed it quite a lot. If you did enjoy, please do feel free to rate us. We've got quite a good rating. If you did enjoy, rate us highly. If you didn't enjoy, don't think about it. If you want to catch more of us, you can catch us on Twitter at Rams Talk Pod, and the same on YouTube as well. Some people like watching on YouTube. You can catch it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can listen to podcasts, really. But yeah, nice one. On to the new season. Thank you very much, lads.
Cheers, Jake.